Excuse me, sir. I'm looking for a job. I'm a hard worker. I set high goals. My motto is, if you want to win the lottery, you have to make the money to buy a ticket. So what do you say? I could start tomorrow, or even why not tonight?
No, I'm not hiring.
We're first! Go around, get a shot inside the car!
Hey, back away!
I got it, I'm back!
Will this be on television?
Morning news, if it bleeds, it leads.
Are you currently hiring? I'm starting a TV news business.
You, get back!
I film breaking stories. Maybe you saw my item this morning with fatal carjacking.
No, I mean, I don't have a TV.
Do you have a cell phone?
Yeah.
Does it have GPS?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're hired.
Okay. We're taking the next right. Good, stupid!
Repeat the police. I will never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. Excuse me. I have something you'll be very excited about.
You have a good eye. I want you to contact me when you have something.
Something like this.
Think of our newscast as a screaming woman running down the street with her throat cut.
You will be seeing me again.
Any unit, residential 211.
A home invasion.
You gotta call the cops.
And we will, at the right time.
But I don't know what to.
We're gonna find the person that drove that car. Start filming.
I'm Detective Fanieri. I think you withheld information.
That would be a very unprofessional thing for me to do.
It would be murder.
I want what you promised me. I want something people can't turn away from.
911, what's your emergency?
We want all of it.
Oh my God!
I love to change the world.
I think Lou is inspiring all of us to reach a little higher.
Hello, welcome to Movie Umbers. I am Bob Sham.
I am Angela.
And our theme this month... Oh, the sounds you hear are maybe dogs.
Yeah, definitely.
They probably will be.
Yeah.
Our theme this month, the asshole on film. Movies exploring where central characters are fucking assholes. It's been a fun subject this month. And we watched some damn fine movies here.
That's what I was about to say.
Another month of good-ass movies.
There have been some really amazing movies.
Maybe every movie should have a giant asshole at the center of it.
Maybe. I mean, this one we're about to talk about, whew.
It's pretty good.
Whew.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And this movie has been, came out in 2014 and has become a cult hit.
I've always
over time.
wanted to see it.
It's kind of one that has kind of lingered for people who have seen it before. And
It just passed us by somehow.
Yeah, we've been wanting to see this for a minute. I remember the trailers back in the day, the promotional images. There's one promotional image that looks like this movie set in the Drive universe or something. Like this guy is like the character from Drive if he was an ambulance chaser or some shit like that. Which is not really what you'd get from it, because that might imply that there's some swag coming out of this main character as played by Jake Gyllenhaal. But no, it's just straight up stone cold sociopathy.
Yeah.
We're talking about the 2014 film Nightcrawler, directed by Dan Gilroy, written by Dan Gilroy, also starring Jake Gyllenhaal, who was big on the production, put a lot of effort into getting this thing made and done. Rene Russo is pretty great in this. Riz Ahmed, the late Bill Paxton, and
R.I.P.
Michael Hyatt.
Who's Michael Hyatt?
She was the detective.
Oh, yes.
It is a lady. Starting to see women called Michael more often lately.
That's interesting.
I had to double check that, like, who was Michael Hyatt? And it was that lady. But yes, Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal is an asshole, a giant asshole, one of our biggest ones. I think so far only the guy from Sword of Doom, just because he's a straight up killer.
Yeah, that's the only guy that's higher.
Might be the biggest asshole.
Because that guy got like a 100 on the 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah, he broke the 10 scale.
But Gyllenhaal's a 10.
He absolutely is.
He's a 10.
Without directly killing someone, though he does.
He manufactures deaths.
He conspires to get people. This guy, like, I'm kind of fascinated. Like, Gyllenhaal plays this dude so cold. It's so interesting because, Gyllenhaal, he's a good-looking guy, right?
Yeah.
Now, we all know people in our lives. If this person wasn't so creepy and weird, they'd be fuckable. Men or women, right? We all know everyone.
I thought of guys, but okay.
Well, I just want to keep it. There's women like that too.
There are women and men.
Can you imagine? Like, we know these people that like on the surface they're like, oh, they look really good. They're very attractive, and then you're with them for 5 minutes and you're like, good God, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
please, God,
something
please.
is not right.
I'm kind of imagining what this character would be doing now, right? And I think this character, Lou Bloom, would probably be spending an inordinate amount of time online. It would evolve into him giving multi-paragraph reply responses on comment threads that are criticizing like Elon Musk. Like, this guy would fucking love Elon Musk, right? Lou Bloom and Elon.
It's interesting because he does talk about he's on the computer all the time. He says at one point, I don't have a formal education, but I like to learn things. I want information. Put himself through courses. Like, he's always trying to better himself. He's also we see his apartment quite a lot, and he's very routine and clean.
Yeah.
Like, everything has a place. He waters his plant at the same time every day. Like, there's just specific things. And he at one point even says like where he's from, but he's like, I don't know anyone there anymore. Like, you get this idea that there's no one in his life at all except his plant and his computer and his television.
He speaks in these self-help, business self-help,
he's always quoting
management self-help books. People who always like talk in that level. So annoying, like just so detached, even just on the subject matter alone. But you can also tell that his dedication to constantly just scouring the internet to understand and focus on the things he wants, and whether it just be regurgitating the same bullshit.
It's kind of like the whole like fuckable conversation. Someone like that can seem smart until you start asking them questions.
Yes.
I don't think that he would ever be someone who... He's not like an incel, who's going to like kill her because she won't fuck him. But he thinks he's smarter than everyone, and he thinks he can get what he wants and should be able to get what he wants by bargaining, even to fuck her. Like, there's a point where he just thinks like, I can talk my way into whatever I want.
I'm looking for a job. In fact, I've made up my mind to find a career that I can learn and grow into. Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals, and I've been told that I'm persistent. Now, I'm not fooling myself, sir. Having been raised with the self-esteem movement so popular in schools, I used to expect my needs to be considered. But I know that today's work culture no longer caters to the job loyalty that could be promised to earlier generations. What I believe, sir, is that good things come to those who work their asses off, and that people such as yourself who reached the top of the mountain didn't just fall there.
His focus on this stringer photojournalism, selling things to news companies, and him getting into that and pursuing that and studying it in his way, and the way he pursues knowledge and the method that he does so in a bizarre way grounds him.
Yeah.
Because there's always that madness right into that's sociopathy, but it does seem like if he's not focusing this hard on this pursuit, then could probably just be a straight up serial killer.
Well, at the beginning, how we're introduced to him is he's stealing chain link fence.
Yeah, and
so
copper
he's been
wiring
stealing like
and
copper
shit.
wiring, chain link fence, manhole covers, and he goes to this construction site or somewhere, and he's selling this stuff. And the guy is like, they're bargaining about. He's always bargaining money. He's always asking for way more than he thinks he can get, so that he can get to a number that's agreeable. That's what bargaining is. But he does it with everything.
He's literally the kind of guy that will cut the catalytic converter out of your car, but he's walking around like the most Harvard business grad schmuck.
Yeah.
And like trying to talk like that, like the Tony Robbins, all that kind of shit rolled into one.
But he does also recognize when someone sees the bullshit, and he doesn't continue when he knows he's lost. So he says to that man, he tries to get a job. He's like talking himself up, like, I want to be a hard worker, like I can do all this stuff, like I think you should give me a job. And then when the guy's like, no, I'm not going to hire you, and he's like, well, maybe I could be an intern. Like a lot of young people, which he's not that young. A lot of young people are taking internships to like start their careers.
And the guy's like, I don't hire thieves.
And he goes, okay. And like walks away because he knows he's lost at that point.
That is a trait of sociopathy. They're going to try to get what you want. And when they realize that you see through them, then they cannot waste another second
Yeah.
with you. They know that they are going to move on.
Yep.
He comes across this accident and he parks and he just stops to observe it.
Yeah, he just wants to know what's going on.
And this video van rolls up and it's Bill Paxton and they're getting up and they're taking video of this horrible accident.
Yeah.
And he's intrigued and he's asking what's going on and what's up.
Well, and he's like, "Are you hiring?" And Bill
And
Paxton's
they're
like,
like,
"Fuck
"Fuck
no.
no."
And he's like, "Who do you work for?" That he's like, "I work for myself. Like, I work the highest bidder, you know." And so he gets this idea that like, "Oh, well, he won't let me work with him, so I want to start doing it."
He hawks some shit. Well, I'll take store credit, and if you give me that camcorder and,
He gets a police scanner and a camcorder to start.
So it's really interesting because we're watching this guy kind of learn how to do this in real time.
This part was interesting where he's like on the computer looking up the police codes and he starts like listening to the scanner just to learn what things are, and he's taking notes about like which things to pay attention to and which not. And you have to learn what everything is to know what you need to respond to.
Yeah. And so he rolls up on some accident where a man, I forget what happened, but the man is like bleeding. He's hurt.
Yeah.
And
He got shot. It was a carjacking.
and he just walks up right in the middle of there's all these soft rules with this business. Like there's a certain distance. You got to be at a certain way to get
they
a
can
certain
kick you
shot.
out, and they will kick
But
you
you
out.
can't just lean over the fucking stretcher and be like, ugh,
They're trying
right?
to save this man's life.
Yeah. So he just comes in and they're like threatening to kick his ass, but he's learning from another guy because him doing that fucks over this other guy. They call it night crawling stringers.
So the news people call them stringers.
Yeah.
They call themselves night crawlers, which I thought was really interesting. It's almost like they try to give themselves like a cool name.
Yeah.
But it's funny because he does follow that man and listen to him negotiating
Yeah.
with a news network for the footage he got, even though it's not as good as the footage that Jake Gyllenhaal gets. Follows really close behind him, listening to the way that he's negotiating to get this paid for, till he knows like how much he can try to charge.
So he goes to this news crew or this news outlet, which is the lowest rated in Los Angeles.
And he truly just walks in the front door.
Walks in and they eventually are able to look at his footage, and it ain't great by their standards, but they got a straight on shot of a man who's been shot. And it's, if it bleeds, it leads.
And what Rene Russo is good at is taking this footage that's very like disjointed and cutting it in a way to go with the story so that it's usable and looks like they knew what was happening. But she does tell him, she's like, you got a lot to work on. Like you need a new camera, you need a light, you need all this stuff.
So he hires this poor guy who you can tell is really played by Riz Ahmed,
So good.
Yeah, who's gotten around. You might remember we discussed the movie Four Lions, another kind of cult, really good movie. Yes. Highly recommended. A lot of people in America might not have seen that.
It's really good.
Comes recommended, but he's like the lead in that movie. That's where we first saw him on this show. But he plays this guy who's fresh out of high school, has nothing, and like he implies that he's homeless.
He said he's sleeping in a garage somewhere.
Yeah, so he manages to negotiate
$30
a night, which
for
ain't
an internship,
which ain't shit at any point for Los Angeles.
But he can eat.
But he basically navigates, and throughout the movie, Jake Gyllenhaal is just hitting him with that like managerial, like regurgitating everything he's read online about pressuring the guy. And just
communication.
Never quite good enough, but feeding him enough compliments to keep him lingered on.
Keep telling him, I'm going to give you a review. You'll get more money eventually, but that day barely ever comes.
And he upgrades his car to this freaking like dope ass muscle car.
Which is so stupid.
Well, it's so he can get to places very fast.
But it's showy. You don't need that like bright red, because there's a point where Riz Ahmed is like, people are going to know this is you. Like, this is noticeable. You're in a red car.
I think there's a thing where more likely to get pulled over if you're in something like a red car.
Absolutely. But that's like the narcissistic part of him, which is like, I need the best thing. I need the best, fastest thing.
But if you are, I pointed this out when watching the movie, and I don't know the details for sure. I mean, when things go on, and you're in the same vicinity that other police are going, if you're chasing what's on the scanner, all the cops you see are probably going to be heading towards the same thing you are.
So they're not going to be looking at you.
So they don't really have time to just pull you over and like check your ID unless you're doing something particularly egregious.
Yeah, he drives so fast and so crazily to get to these places first, because his whole thing is he wants to get there first.
And at one point he does, and he's like making it a point to
moves the body.
He drags the bodies around into the headlights, and he sets it all up, and he starts getting paid more and more and more by this new, because their ratings are going up.
He's making thousands of dollars for videos.
Yeah, it went from like
$250.
I'll get $250 for this to like he's negotiating between $3,000 and $15,000
at the end of the movie. The final video that he sells is a $15,000 video.
And of course, the detectives are starting to take notice of this guy, but so far, in terms of what they can prove and what is technically legal, he's just barely riding that line.
And Bill Paxton hates him because he's getting the jump on Bill Paxton, because somehow he's getting there faster, because he doesn't care, and he will just like risk his life to get there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That he's not undercutting, but he's getting there before, so they don't have the story. And then Bill Paxton approaches him and is like, so much is the part where Jake Gyllenhaal is like, you're not listening to me. I'm saying no. You keep talking to me as though I'm interested, and I'm not. I want to grab you. And it was so calm. He's like,
I feel like grabbing you by your ears right now and screaming in your face, I'm not fucking interested. Instead, I'm gonna drive home and do some accounting.
Fuck you, twerp.
he's so controlled. But in that moment, he just tells him, he's like, I could fucking hurt you right now.
Like I said, just like on trailers and promotional imagery of this movie,
I did not understand what this was.
it implies that you get that there's like some criminality
Yes.
going on by the main character, but you think he's going to have some swag. He does not. He is stone cold. He bullies and asserts himself in a way. He has to have something that people want in order for him to be able to function in this way. And that's how he does it, because based on just his natural interaction with human beings, no one really wants to be around him.
No, and Rene Russo does seem to have this weird like attraction to him, but it's almost like because he's bringing her these videos that are making her look good, it's almost like foreplay. I think I said that to you at one point, because there is this part at the end where it almost feels like sexual when they're like negotiating how much to get for that last video.
Yeah.
But he takes her to dinner at one point. He convinces her to go to dinner, and she tells him no at first, and then he basically threatens her. And she's like, I don't want it to mess up our like business relationship. I don't date people that I work with. And he's like, well, you buy from me. We don't work together. And also, what if you jeopardize that relationship by saying no to me?
He has footage because he arrived early at this place that's essentially some fucking cartel mob hit. And he rolls up to this house and he beats everyone there. And he sees people getting like executed through the windows of the house, and they get in a van and they drive off. And then he literally walks into the house and he is like all through it. Like he's getting all the close-ups. At one point he's holding it over a crib and you're like, oh no, they killed a baby.
But there's no baby.
Fortunately, there's no baby. But the footage of just walking in and zooming in on the baby crib is like still good for that kind of thing. But of course, he keeps the part where he is able to identify the killers in the van.
He gets their faces on tape.
But he doesn't present that. He presents him going through the house. So, and that's when he bargains like for that $15,000 for that cut, and bargains a relationship. Like, you're going to have a relationship with me, essentially.
Yes, because he did try to take her out to dinner earlier and convince her that they needed to be in a relationship, and he wanted a relationship with her, and she kept telling him no. But yeah, at this point, he's like, I want $15,000. You're going to introduce me to the producers. You're going to introduce me to the people behind the desk. You're going to be in a relationship with me.
And he also knows everything about
fucked.
her and her struggles in that gig, and how
Because
she's
he's
never been
researched her.
anywhere more than 2 years at a time, and how
He's like, you need me.
and if so long as she wants to stay relevant in her business, she will do everything she asks for. But the parts in which she is getting this footage and the parts that do appeal, it does like pop her, right? It does like get her excited that way. So in that scene where the news anchors are going through the footage where he's walking through the house and people are shot
That was
up.
actually a really cool scene.
That was super sharp. And she's like talking to him, was like, say this is a safe neighborhood and that this could happen anywhere. Say again that this that they can't find the killers, that they don't know where the killers are.
The way it was written was so brilliant because obviously they're not parroting what she's saying, but they're listening to her and incorporating it in what they're saying. I don't know that I've ever seen a depiction of like a newscast in that way, but you know that has to happen all the time because you've got producers telling you what to do and say unless it's like pre-scripted. But it was so like smooth and it made them, it's like really good improv.
Obviously a big commentary on the ultra cynicism of entertainment and media, and the idea that someone this cold, this unrelatable can thrive in this kind of environment.
Absolutely. They at one point have legal come in. She's like, what can I show? What can't I show? And they're like, well, you got to at least pixelate the faces because then you're telling who the victims are if you don't. Oh, the other thing he didn't show them is one of those people was alive.
Oh, yeah.
They died before the cops got there, but when he walked into that house, one of them was still breathing, and he did not help them. He tried. The news reporters kept trying to say that the reason their guy got in so early is because he heard shots, and he wanted to see if he could help.
He keeps the information of the identities of the killers. He has their license plate and everything. And he keeps this so he can be able to drag this story out and be able to sell it out. Earlier
that same night, though, we just have to mention that he cut something under Bill Paxton's van because he wanted to, he hates him now and he doesn't want, because he got one story before him, and so he was pissed about it, and so he like cut his brake line, and so Bill Paxton and the guy in they ran into a pole,
and he's like all wrecked, and Bill Paxton looks up and he sees
he's
him
filming it,
just that fucking cold laser wide-eyed stare.
Yeah,
he's
so that
good
happens
at being creepy in this movie.
The same night before he walks in, and his eyes are like so blue and piercing and like fucking freaky. Yeah. Anyway, so then he has this plan that he's gonna catch them catching the criminals. Yeah, on tape. He's gonna set up the catching of criminals.
And Riz Ahmed, who's been working very hard for him
every night
and improving for like $30 a night, very timidly tries to renegotiate like how much he's making, and then he just doesn't know much about the business, and it's all rigged against him, and his boss is a sociopath. So his boss is like, how much do you want? And he could have probably said like $3,000 a night or something like that.
I think he could have. He started to say 500, which is what he should have said.
Yeah.
He goes, 500
would have been good too.
75?
He says $75.
And he goes, done. Negotiations closed.
And he goes, I could have gotten more, right? And he's like, yes, you could have.
But negotiations are closed.
But they're sitting outside of this area waiting for these killers, like straight up killers. And he's supposed to be going around and getting shots at certain angles when things go. And this guy's freaking out. And he's like, look, I want to renegotiate again. I want half of what you get from this video tonight.
Because the plan is we're going to follow these killers until they're somewhere that's like a better neighborhood. Because part of what Rene Russo keeps telling him is it has to be in certain areas with certain kinds of victims. And so he wants to wait till they're in a better area, and then he's going to call it in and tell the police, like, I see these guys, so that he can then get it on tape of them getting arrested.
Very pointed class issue. They don't care about a carjacking in Compton, but a shooting in like a nice neighborhood. And later they find out that the motivation of the killing was drug dealer related, which provides a very specific motive, which would probably make the rest of the neighborhood feel a little safer. It's not just some random, but they bury that fact and just keep pushing it like someone just randomly broke in and just fucking killed all these people.
Because it's better TV for everyone to be afraid, because they're going to keep tuning in to find out if these guys have been caught. That's what she wants.
Because otherwise people are like, well, I'm not in a fucking drug cartel or anything.
Exactly.
So
no one's going to come looking for me. I'm not doing drugs. So Riz Ahmed renegotiates, and he does agree to get half.
And then they go up to this Chinese restaurant where they track the dudes, and then he calls the police, says everything they need to do to trigger, and he's like, I think these are the guys that did the shooting at that house. Also, they're armed.
And the men were armed.
Yeah. But he didn't really know that for sure.
He didn't know that for sure.
And Riz Ahmed, I forget the character's name, he's like, there's like 6 people in there. And then he's telling them, like, you need to go out and you need to go across the street over to that corner and get some good shots. And he's like, resisting.
It's like, I don't want to get out of the car.
And he essentially he says, I'm going to physically hurt you
if you don't go do this.
Because you're going against the deals that we made together.
Yep.
And so he goes out there, and sure enough, cops show up, and these guys start shooting, and people are dying.
One of the guys gets in his car, and there's a chase.
This chase scene's pretty dope. Like, the way it was filmed, it's actually really fucking good.
And Riz Ahmed is back in the car, and they're chasing the car chase.
And I mean, they're like less than a car length away up the ass of this cop chasing this.
Back up, we're too close.
Yeah. And it's wild. Like, the cop car ends up flipping, and the other car flips, and they have a bad wreck. And he kind of floats through like a fucking ghost, gets in between them, and he parks, and he kind of scouts the area, and then he tells his partner, go over there and get a shot in that van.
He goes, he's dead. Come get a shot.
Yeah.
So Riz Ahmed goes over there. The guy is not dead. The guy shoots Riz like 6 times. And
he baited him into death.
Yeah, then he gets out, and then the police comes and shoots him. And so he's gotten on camera his employee, I'm not going to say friend because he's not, his employee getting shot, and then the man getting shot by the cop. And he gets all of that. And then he walks over to Riz Ahmed and is still like filming him alive laying on the ground. And it is fucked.
Yeah, and he talks to him.
You saw him.
I can't jeopardize my company's success to retain an untrustworthy employee.
You're crazy. Crazy.
You took my bargaining power, Rick. You used it against me. You would have done it again. Just admit it.
I don't know.
I know.
Evil motherfucker.
Yeah, he didn't want to give him half of that money, so he instead got a better video.
So he gets to present extremely dramatic footage to this news company of his own partner dying. So it looks like he lost something personal in the process. The detectives are not buying it. The lady sits in a room with him, basically tells her everything that she thinks that he's actually been doing, which is 100% true, but she has no proof of it. Mm-hmm. What's fucked up is, like, the movie doesn't end on some resolution in the sense of no one's going to get their comeuppance. No one's going to... It ends on him essentially thriving in this news environment, becoming more ingrained into this news environment. He knows everyone's name, and he's hiring like 3 more people, and he has the multi-van operation that Bill Paxton was popping off on.
It ends with like 3 vans going out. And it's just... And he has, like, he names his company at one point. That was part of his demands also, was you have to be in a relationship with me. You have to tell me who these people are. You have to start using my name of my company. He has a plan. And it's insane that he gets away with it.
There's something about this movie. I mean, this guy's a 10 on the asshole scale.
10.
This is probably the most scuzzy feeling movie. I'd rather hang out with the murderer from Sword of Doom.
Yeah.
I'd rather roll around in a car with Connie from Good Time.
I mean, I'd be a little scared.
But I would rather do that.
But I'd rather be with Connie, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely would rather hang out with Barry Lyndon.
1,000 Barry Lyndon over this guy. This guy could kill you on purpose. That's the difference. Like, Sword of Doom's not going to kill you unless he's being paid to.
Or it benefits him in some way.
Or it benefits him.
Or you're an old man at a Buddhist temple.
Yeah, he was just probably having a bad day that day. So yeah, maybe you don't want to hang out with Sword of Doom. But Connie's never going to hurt you as long as you're, like, nice to him.
That's true. If you give him, regurgitate what he wants to hear.
Yeah, this guy, if nothing's popping off that night, he might hit you with his car so he can video you getting hit with his car.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what he's going to do.
The scuzziest movie this month so far, truly. And the fact that it ends in him even becoming more successful. Mm-hmm. Because it's established early on. Like, he beats up a security guard early in the movie and steals his watch. Like, this isn't some guy who's just come from, like, it's established that he's a criminal.
Yeah.
And then you just watch this guy, this lunatic. And it's interesting because Riz Ahmed, when he thinks he's successfully negotiated with him, he starts to explain to him how you need to be mindful how you talk to people. You're very strange. You come off so cold. You are not a people person.
But that's also what pissed him off.
And then at one point he says, when he's threatening him to go get the shot, he's like, have you thought that maybe it's not so much that I'm not a people person?
Not that I don't understand people, I just don't like them.
Boy, did Jake Gyllenhaal play a real right scumbag.
Yeah.
In this movie. Like, this is like the filthiest movie.
It is.
So far.
It is. It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very gross. And also just would like to just say for the record, Renee Russo is hot as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Renee Russo
she really is
so hot.
Straight up Milfin Gilfin.
Hell yeah.
You Milfin, you Gilfin this?
What's Gilfin?
Grandma.
Oh.
Do you know what a Dilf is?
Dad?
Yeah. Do you know what a good Gilf is?
I guess granddad.
Great grandfather.
Great.
I'd like to fuck. You're gonna give this 1 through 5. We're gonna give this 1 through 5 combined for best out of 10. Look, we get a lot of A movies. I suspect this will be no less. What's your
This is
score?
going to also be an A movie.
What's your score?
4.25.
Yeah, I'm gonna match it. 4.25. So that's an 8.5.
And we love Bill Paxton. We miss you, Bill Paxton.
Yeah, man. It's good to see him.
It was. I wanted more Bill Paxton.
Yeah,
but he did wonderfully.
I'm going to put this movie on top of the 8.5. So
Okay, yeah, agree.
number 20 on our A tier so far between Mad God and Akira. Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler. Fucked up movie. And not one we are likely to forget. And
Kind of sitting between some fucked up movies, too.
And that seems to be the pattern with this particular movie, is that once you see it, it never really leaves you. So it's one that is kind of like a modern classic, one that has left a cultural mark for those who are interested in watching movies and films and such. And if you love a film noir, neo-noir, crime dramas, one of my favorite genres of movies. So
check it out.
Check the show notes for links and other places to find us. What do you think about Nightcrawler? I'm sure. Do you have as much praise as a lot of people do? Hit like and subscribe for more like this, more assholes for the rest of the month. And then we get into our Halloween Hump Fest next month, which is right around the corner. Every weekday, a drop. A horror movie.
Every single weekday.
All right. So,
death to all traitors.